Today, we are going to dive into a theory that completely flips the script on cryptocurrency. I want you to forget everything you think you know about Bitcoin being some kind of grassroots rebellion. We're going to explore the argument that it was something else entirely, right from the very beginning. So this is the big question our source material poses. They told you Bitcoin was freedom money, right? A decentralized shot at hope. But what if? What if that was just the cover story? The core idea here is to think of Bitcoin as a perfect digital Trojan horse, a beautiful gift that seemed to offer total liberation, but was actually designed to get us, the public, totally comfortable with the tools of control, traceable, programmable money. The goal? To get us ready for a fully centralized version. So, where does a theory like this even begin? Well, according to the source, it all comes down to one thing: timing. Perfect, impeccable timing. I want you to think back to 2008. The global financial system was basically on its knees. Trust in banks? It had completely evaporated. And the source argues that it was at this exact moment of peak chaos that this mysterious figure, Satoshi Nakamoto, shows up and introduces Bitcoin. The perfect anti-bank symbol, arriving just when the world was desperate for one. So while the public was getting completely obsessed with mining and the whole digital gold rush, the argument goes that governments, well, they weren't panicking. They were quietly in the background, just watching, measuring, and learning from this massive, real-world experiment that was unfolding right in front of them. And look, if governments were studying this new technology, they needed a testing ground, right? A lab. And Bitcoin's first major use case, according to this source, gave them the perfect one. You see, Bitcoin didn't get its big break in mainstream finance. No, its first real stress test was on the dark web. It became the lifeblood of the Silk Road marketplace. We're talking drugs, weapons, all kinds of illicit stuff, all flowing through this supposedly anonymous new currency. And this right here highlights a huge contradiction. The promise of Bitcoin, the big selling point, was anonymity. But the reality? Every single transaction has always been recorded on a public, permanent, and, this is the key part, traceable ledger. For anyone watching, this made it the absolute perfect test for surveillance. Now, a common thing you hear is, but wait, governments hate Bitcoin, right? Well, this source hits that idea head on. The argument is simple. If the powers that be truly wanted Bitcoin gone, they could have crushed it when it was just getting started. The fact that they didn't, well, that's presented as evidence of a very different strategy. Instead of destroying it, they took these steps. They taxed it, which brought it right into the existing financial system. They put regulations on the exchanges. They normalized it through endless media coverage and big institutions getting involved. They let it grow, but just enough to get all of us used to the idea of digital money, of instant payments, and of trusting a digital ledger. And all of this, according to this theory, was just the pilot program. It was the test run. Now we're seeing the rollout of what the source calls the main event: central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. These are digital versions of a country's own money issued and backed directly by the central bank. This quote really gets to the heart of the argument. While the public saw this big fight for financial freedom, governments supposedly saw a massive data set. They could study how we transact, our behavioral psychology, what triggers market panics, and how we react to digital assets. In this view, Bitcoin wasn't the enemy. It was the prototype. And this production model is now going global. This isn't some fringe idea anymore. As of recently, more than 130 countries are either exploring or actively developing their own central bank digital currencies. This is a worldwide financial shift. And as you can see, it's the major world powers leading the charge. China's already piloted its digital yuan, the US is developing systems like FedNow for instant payments, and Europe is getting the digital euro ready. The source basically says the experiment is over and the official rollout is already underway. And here's the ultimate irony in all of this. The very movement that started with this burning desire to escape the banking system has, according to this theory, paved the way for the most centralized bank of all, one that lives right in your pocket and is controlled completely by the state. So, what is the endgame? What does a world run on these CBDCs actually look like from this perspective? Well, it gets pretty dark. In this future, your digital wallet is so much more than just a place to hold your money. It's a record, a tool that doesn't just track your balance, it tracks your behavior. Every single thing you buy can be monitored, analyzed, and even judged. Just think about the implications of that for a second. What happens when your spending is tied to social policy or political ideology? The source asks these exact questions. What if you buy something they've decided is unsustainable, or you say something online they consider misinformation?
The consequence is immediate and surgical. Your funds can be frozen, just like that. You don't need to be arrested to be silenced. You can simply be cut off from the entire economy.
This quote just ties the whole theory together, doesn't it? The idea that the very tool that was promoted as your escape route was actually the material being used to build a new, much more sophisticated cage around you. Now, faced with this potential future, the source material doesn't just lay out the problem, it also talks about a defense. It talks about what you can do.
The advice is pretty clear. Hold your own crypto keys. Don't ever leave them on an exchange. Own real physical assets that can't freeze, like gold or land. Transact directly with other people whenever you can to avoid that digital leech. And question every single update, because when money becomes code, control can become invisible.
And this brings us to the final and maybe the most crucial takeaway. In a world of increasing digital control, the argument here is that true sovereignty, and maybe the last real form of wealth, starts with just being aware of the systems that are being built all around you.